The little prince was found dead at his hut, where he was sleeping. "The prince is dead! He is dead!" the palace guards cried out to the queen. The queen froze out as she heard what the guard had said. That was the second time she was losing her son to the cold hands of death. Why are the ancestors being so harsh on me? What have I done to deserve a punishment from them? She cried out at the palace. The king heard her scream and wondered what was wrong. He walked out of his hut to meet the sad news of his dead prince. "No, no, this is not happening, not again," he shouted. The king placed his hand gently on the prince, checking to see if he was still breathing. But the young prince was gone far in death. Fake tears rolled down his cheeks, pretending to be sad about the death of his son. But deep down his heart, he was happy his plans worked out again. The king knew exactly what had happened to his son. He knew the cause of the unexpected death. It was his biggest secret, a secret he was never going to share with anyone. The king used a leaf to cover the dead prince, and then he said to the body, "Rest peacefully, my son." So the dead prince was taken out of the palace to where he would be buried, leaving the poor queen crying continuously. It was an experience the queen never dreaded to experience. The sad news quickly spread like wildfire in the whole village. "The prince is dead. How can he be dead? Not again." And I feel sorry for the queen, losing her sons like nothing. Soon, all the village elders, known as the king's companion, were gathered around the king to mourn with him. They were not aware of who the king truly is or the secret he has been hiding from them. "My king, I am so sorry about your loss. I wonder why all this is happening. I mean, you just lost your only son some years ago, and now you still lost another again. You need to be strong, my king. The gods will see you through," said one of the elders as they sat to discuss. The king sat down on his throne with his hands in his jaw, pretending to be sad. "What is my crime this time? Why are the gods taking all my sons from me? I am nothing without a son, a heir to the throne," he cried. After the discussion with the king, all the village elders left, and the king was left alone to think at his palace. It was becoming a scary village where the prince always dies 2 weeks before Christmas Day. The king kept losing all his sons, and when his prince is born, the villagers will rejoice and sing happily. But the young prince would only die when it's almost time for Christmas. The villagers had no idea why this keeps happening. So one day they blamed it on the queen for being a witch who has been killing all her sons, and they decided to chase her away and marry a new wife for the king. The queen pleaded with them, but to no avail. After some time, a new wife, a queen, was chosen for the king, hoping that the abomination of losing the prince would stop, since they all believed the first queen was evil and also had been the reason behind all the sudden death of the prince. The villagers expected a change after bringing a new wife for the king, but they were wrong. Something later again happened. The new wife put to bed the child for the king, a male one, just like expected, bringing joy to the village. The little prince grew faster as time went on. He was loved and cherished by the queen, but she was scared not to lose her son like the other queen did. When the prince became 12 years old, he was given the crown as a prince. After the king has crowned the young prince, he knew something very bad was going to happen soon. Crowning the prince was a way of sacrificing the prince to his secret, unknown to anyone. A few weeks later, while the young prince was on a walk with some guards looking around the village, he began to cough out blood. "Not again! What do we tell the king?" said one of the guards. On returning home, they gave the news to the king and queen. The king was devastated that he sentenced those guards to death by hanging. "What has happened to my son? Don't tell me he is dead, because I knew he was alive when he left here," the queen said. The guards pleaded with the king, saying that they were innocent and had no idea what had happened to the king. But the king was stuck to his words, saying the palace guard had taken his son out to end his life. He knew this was his only way of covering his deed by placing the blame on the guards. A meeting was held at the palace immediately, and there the king concluded that the two palace guards should be sentenced to death for the crime they committed. Well, as time goes on, the new queen got pregnant for the second time. And this time, while she was pregnant, sometimes she would sneak to a secret place to pray, pleading with the ancestors to protect her unborn child. So, she put to bed again another male child. She always stayed by the child, waited, and always prayed to the gods to protect her son from any mysterious death. And she called him Prince Emenike, and she taught him the ways of the prince. The new king knew that this time he was going to succeed in his plan. He was always ready to sacrifice the prince Emenike to his secret that no one knew. All he wanted to do was put the crown on the prince, and the prince would die in a few days. A day before Prince Emenike would be crowned the king, he was staying alone in his room, and suddenly a ghost appeared to him. The ghost looked just like him. Emenike, the ghost spoke. He turned around and got shocked and scared of the ghost. "Do not be afraid. I am not here to hurt you. Tomorrow you will be given a crown as a prince. Do not accept the crown from your father," the ghost echoed. The young prince tried to find out why the ghost who the ghost was and why it was telling him to reject a crown from his prince. "Who are you and why are you telling me this?" he asked with fear. "Just listen to my advice, little one, because if you accept the crown, you will die." The voice echoed and disappeared, leaving Prince Emenike confused. "If you accept the crown from your father, you will die," said the ghost, and disappeared into the air, leaving him confused. Different thoughts came running into his mind immediately. He thought about telling his mother, but doubted if she would believe him. Maybe she would, he said. He was just a boy, and he didn't have any friend to talk to. So he got up and decided to try by telling his mother what he had seen. But surprisingly, the whole world looked different than usual. It looked more dark than before, making him confused. Prince Emenike could barely see his way as he walked slowly out of the hut. As he made his way, he continued to wonder what had happened and why everyone was suddenly not in the palace. He came to the main palace and looked at the throne where his father would usually sit with his mother, but he found no one. Then he decided to turn back. Then on his way, he met his father. Then he asked his father, "Father, where is everyone?" Father then told him that they all gathered outside, waiting for him to be crowned the prince. He said, "Okay." The thought of what the ghost said kept recurring in his heart. The prince got tired and fell on the ground as his father tried to force the crown on his head since he refused to come out to join them. "I am sorry, my son. You can't escape from me." So he brought out the crown and tried to force it on the prince. The little prince screamed so loud and he opened his eyes. He realized he has been dreaming for the past few minutes. "It's a dream," he said, with his heart beating so fast. A maid at the palace quickly ran into his hut and met the prince sitting. Prince Emenike, what is wrong, my prince? I heard you scream so loud. The maid spoke. The prince acted like all was okay, hiding his dream from the maid. It's just a dream, he said, breathing so fast. Oh, my prince, I just wanted to check. Remember, tomorrow you'll be crowned our prince. I am so happy for you. Cynthia, the palace maid, spoke. She had always been a personal nanny to the prince, right from the birth. Her words made the prince scared, thinking about his dream and the ghosts he saw, plus every time that happened in his dream. So you mean tomorrow is the day already? The young prince asked. Yes, it is tomorrow, my prince. I am happy for you. You have come a long way. As Prince Emenike sat up and was about leaving his room, he saw the strange ghost again, but in real life this time, standing right at the entrance of the hut. The prince looked around and saw that no one was watching him, so he shouted at the ghost, Why are you everywhere I go? Now you come to real life. But you have to believe me. Sorry, I had to make those dreams, but I am trying to pass a message to you, the ghost said. Please, you are making me scared. Go now and never return. I don't want to see you again. Why are you saying I should not be a prince? The little prince said with a bit of anger. Because I don't want you to die, to make the same mistake like the rest. But Prince Emenike interrupted the ghost. Just leave me alone if you can't tell me why you are saying all this, said the prince. The ghost could not tell the prince everything about the king. It might put him in more danger because the king was ready to get rid of anyone who finds out about his secret. So the ghost had no choice but to hide the secret from the prince. Hey Menike, you have to listen to me first. You will know everything when it is time. But now just tell the king you don't want the crown and you don't want to be the prince. My father is the king. Am I supposed to be a prince? How do you expect me to turn his offer down? Please don't appear to me again, not also in my dream, or else I'll be forced to tell my mother. So the ghost got a little angry because the prince was being stubborn, vanishing into the air without any more words. If you want to be alive, you must not be the prince. The thought kept ringing in his head. Tomorrow he will be crowned the prince. The dream of becoming a prince will happen tomorrow, but he felt like somehow a ghost is trying to ruin his dream. He had to confide in a little friend he just made, the palace maid, Cynthia. I have been seeing a ghost around the palace, Emenike said. Oh, my ancestors, it goes around the palace. That is strange. Are you sure what you're saying? Cynthia asked. The prince went further to explain to Cynthia how he first met the ghost in his dream and how he also saw the ghost in real life. The ghost told me I should not accept a crown tomorrow from my father because if I do, I will die. Immediately, Emenike told Cynthia what the ghost said. He noticed a sudden change in her face. Wait, you don't look surprised when I told you what the ghost said. Why? My prince, is a long story. I am not supposed to share with you. I feel maybe the ghost is right, said the maiden. The prince got more worried than before. You mean the ghost is right? I am going to die if I accept the crown and become a prince. I am not saying the ghost is right, but I think he is right. I have something to tell you. Please make sure you don't tell anyone, Cynthia said. Over time before you, there had been two princes that were born, and after being crowned, they died. Prince Emenike got really scared. Then at night time, Prince Emenike woke up and sneaked out of his hut without any other person watching. He gently walked past the palace guards and luckily for him, they were asleep. He went straight to Cynthia, the maid's hut, and woke her up. The maid, with a surprised expression, asked, "My prince, what are you doing here in my hut at this time of the night? Please, I don't want to accept the crown tomorrow and be the prince. Maybe the ghost is right. Let me hide here in your hut, and please, tomorrow, don't show me to my father when they notice I've gone missing." The maid knew hiding the prince is in her hut was a very bad idea, but she had no choice. So she allowed the prince to stay in her hut till the next day. "The prince is missing. The prince has been kidnapped," the guards who went to check on the prince screamed. Cynthia the maid woke up immediately when she heard the scream from the guard. "Search everywhere in the village," she heard the king say to the guards. "Oh no, this is not good," said the maid, as she tried to cover the prince with something while he hid in her hut. "What do you suggest the maid should do?" Now, they searched and searched everywhere, and they had no choice but to come back to the palace and decided to search every hut in the palace. While they were there searching, they eventually found the prince. Suddenly, Cynthia started crying. "My king, I am innocent. I am sorry. I never meant to hide him." "Just shut your mouth. You have no explanation. You hid him while I was searching for him. For this you have done, you will be sentenced to death." "Ah!" all the villagers who gathered round shouted. The king's word hit the prince so hard. "No, father, you can't punish her with death. I made the decision of hiding in her room. I told her to remain silent even when I go missing. Please do not punish her," the prince pleaded. With no other choice to please his son, he had to banish Cynthia from the village. Cynthia had to carry her things and leave for the village. Cynthia walked through the forest. Then, on her way, a ghost appeared to her. She got scared initially. She ran as fast as she could, heading straight into the other part of the forest. She was about to make a turn to another part when she heard the ghost say, "Wait! I am not here to hurt you. I need your help," said the ghost. Making the maid feel relieved, she took a deep breath and gathered up the courage to speak. "I was banished from my village. I don't think I can help anyone or a random ghost," she said. "I am not a random ghost. You don't recognize me because you can't see me clearly. You have to go back to your village and to the palace," said the ghost. Cynthia thought for a few minutes. Going back to the village would be another disaster. If she's seen by anyone, she'll be stoned to death. "I can't go back. I have been banished." The ghost pleaded with her to find a way to go help them to rescue the prince. With no She had to make her a U-turn back to the village. Back at the palace, the prince was dressed up in a good-looking dress, while the maid prepared the palace for the crowning of the prince. All the villagers who were invited to the palace to witness the ceremony began coming in one after the other. There were plenty of drinks and food, singing and dancing to the prince. "Soon you will be fully a prince in our kingdom." They were happy. The prince stood from his seat, and with a sad expression on his face, he looked at his mother once more, and she nodded, telling him to go and be the prince. The prince walked slowly to the king and knelt down. "That's good, my son. Today I crown you, Emenike, a full prince," the king said, taking the crown closer to the prince. The young prince closed his eyes, and all he could hear was, "Don't allow the crown to touch your head." So he quickly used his hand to push the crown back, forced the crown from his father, and threw it on the ground. "I don't want to be a prince," he shouted, leaving the whole crowd in shock. Soon the villagers began muttering words to themselves. "What's wrong with the prince? Oh no, look, he threw the crown away," they said. "Abomination! Alo!" the king growled. "What is wrong with you, son? This is your calling. You need to be crowned the prince. That's the tradition," said the queen. "I don't care what you want to be. You are not going to bring shame to this royal family. You must take the crown." The king roared like a lion, but the prince was stuck to his words. He was convinced of a countless number of times by the palace elders to accept the crown, but he said no. Then the king got angry and had to lock him up with the guards securing him. The king had to go to his room agitated. "If I don't kill my son, then I will have to be the one to die. No! He may be able to accept death by the day, but I shall crown him by the night," said the king with an evil look. The king thought about the consequences of not sacrificing his son, the shame and the confession he had to make. He couldn't accept his fate, so he planned on forcing the crown on the prince anyway. Cynthia, the maid, made her way to the palace without being seen. Then she went up to his room where he was guarded, but luckily for her, there was no guard on site. So she went in and told Prince Emenike to follow her. As they were proceeding out on their way, they saw and they got frozen as they saw the king standing by the door holding the crown. "So, you have the guts to come back to this village?" Cynthia asked the king. "You made a big mistake by coming back to this village. This is your end," said the king as he pulled out a knife from his cloth. "For me, the and Cynthia tried to escape. Eventually, they were able to. They ran into far away in the forest. The king had to order the guards to quickly chase after them. The maid ran with the prince as fast as they could, running to escape from the king and find a better place to hide. But the palace guards were plenty, got themselves distributed into multiple ways, and kept chasing the maid. It got to the extent Prince Emenike got tired. He could not run anymore. He told Cynthia for them to rest. "Trust me, I know your father. He has not given up on us," she said. "He must have sent his guards to be after us." "I can't go, I can't." "No, you can't. Let us go now." So the prince rose up slowly and they turned to leave, but it was too late for them as they were surrounded by the guards. As they were about to defend themselves, mistakenly one of the guards' sword pierced through the prince's stomach. He merely fell on the ground, giving room for Cynthia to run far and watch them from a distance. The guard had no choice but to carry the prince back to the palace to be able to heal him before he dies. Cynthia, left with no other choice, had to follow them from a distance without being noticed. But on her way, she suddenly heard her name from behind, and she turned her back to look. It was the ghost. She looked really angry seeing the ghost again. When she needed the help of the ghost, he wasn't there. Now that the prince is being stabbed and taken back to the palace, he appears again. "Please, you have to leave me alone. I don't want any more problems," she says, staring angrily at the ghost. The ghost looked at her and realized she was disappointed because he wasn't there when they needed help to escape. "Please, I have my reasons for not showing up that time. But this is not the time to turn back," said the ghost. "Oh, so getting me killed is the reason you didn't show up. I see you want me to die. I almost got stabbed before the prince interrupted. Now, I don't know if he is dead or alive," said the maid. "That's why you have to go back to the palace. I am sure the prince is alive and well. But anytime soon, the king will use the opportunity to place the crown on his head. And you know what that means. He will die. I am sorry. I cannot risk my life to go back to the palace," Cynthia the maid said. Cynthia decided to give it a try again. She sneaked into the palace, but unfortunately for her, she was caught by one of the guards who took her straight to the king. The king was now questioning her why she was trying to stop him from crowning his son. She was pleading with the king to let her go for her life. While this was going on, everyone in the village began hearing a strange voice telling them to go to the palace. They did not know who was speaking to them, but secretly it was the seven ghosts whispering in their ears to go to the palace immediately. After that, the ghost also went to the palace and healed the prince, telling him to go to the entrance of the village. You have something to witness, said the ghost, and vanished from the prince. Without wasting time, Prince Emenike quickly ran out of the hut and made his way to the entrance as instructed. As soon as they got there, only to discover the king was there trying to kill the maid Cynthia. "No, my king, please, let us listen to her," said the queen. Turning back around, the king saw the queen, together with almost half of the village. He wondered how they were able to locate him. "Do you remember our son is almost dead? Now, because of this maiden, she deserves to die," said the king. The king was about to attack the maid when he heard a loud sound in his head. It was like the sound of a trumpet. In between the sound was a voice. "The hour has come," said the voice in a loud sound. At that moment, the king realized he had failed. He failed using his son as a sacrifice, and now it's time to face his fears. "No, this can't be happening. I need more time to bring the sacrifice," he said in his mind. But he was becoming weak and relaxed on his knees, making all the palace guards wonder what was going on with him. And immediately they could see a sign of a strange ghost appeared in front of the king. Cynthia, thinking it was a late son, but this time the ghost was a different ghost. He appeared and walked up to the king. "Do you remember me? You called me the ghost you saw on Christmas." "No way. You have been dead for over 50 years. How can you come back today?" The king said to the strange ghost. "I told you I was never gone until I see you confess. Now tell your people what you have done in the past. Tell them everything," the ghost shouted with a thunderous voice. The queen and everyone present at the moment were curious and wanted to know the secret the king had kept from them. The king kept silent and refused to talk, but soon he began feeling a very serious pain around his stomach. "No, the pain is too much. Please forgive me," he said to the ghost. "Now confess," said the ghost. He then started. "A long time ago," the king began, "I had a friend from another village. He was a prince just like me. But one day he came visiting and we went out to play together in the woods. We had a misunderstanding and I got angry and hit him hard with a big wood, bringing him down to death. I hid being responsible for his death from everyone and lied to his people. But a few weeks after his death, he appeared to me on Christmas Day and told me I will never be the king of my village unless I go to his village and confess what I did. But I didn't confess. Rather, I went and got myself spiritually fortified for any kind of ghost. And the only way I could keep living was to continue bringing my own son as a sacrifice to the spiritual power guiding me from the ghosts. I am responsible for all the deaths of the princes in the past years. Please forgive me, my people," said the king. Everybody in the crowd were astonished. "What an evil king! Stone him to death," said the villagers. The king pleaded with the villagers for mercy, but they picked up stones and poured spit on him. At